Will AI replacing coding drive developer salaries down to zero? That's the big question swirling around.
It really
And
is.
it's exactly what we're diving into today.
Yeah, it's a concern we're hearing a lot, and this analysis we've got developer evolution in the AI age.
Yeah.
It really gets into the weeds of it.
Okay.
But it's not just about the money, it's looking at the fundamental value of the work itself.
The developer's work.
Right, how collaboration is changing, how we even think about, well, what it means to be a developer now with AI in the picture.
So for you listening, our mission in this deep dive
Yeah.
is basically to cut through all that noise and give you a clearer picture, hopefully, of the future role, the future worth of developers.
And look, we get it. This can sound complicated, maybe a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, a little up there.
But don't worry, we're going to pull out the key insights, the really crucial bits, and, explore them in a way that clicks.
Okay, let's unpack this then. The analysis starts by questioning the question itself.
Right.
AI replacing coders, it says that's kind of old thinking, like 19th century labor thinking. What's that about?
Yeah, it's interesting how it challenges those basic assumptions right away. We tend to think, okay, AI codes well, so we don't need human developers. Simple, right?
It seems logical on the surface.
But that idea, it comes from a really old view of work, almost like an assembly line.
Okay.
It assumes coding is just repetitive, that AI is just a tool for that repetition, and that people are just a labor force, interchangeable.
Ah, I see. So if you think like that,
Then yeah, AI getting better seems like it makes humans redundant, obsolete even.
right, very industrial revolution.
Yep.
But the analysis argues coding is way more than just, typing lines.
Oh, absolutely. The real core of knowledge work and coding is definitely... Knowledge work isn't just the surface stuff.
Oh.
The real value, it's in the higher level thinking. First, figuring out the actual problem.
Defining it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then designing a solution, structuring how you get there, and then, crucially, interpreting the results. What does it all mean? AI might get amazing at the syntax, the grammar of code, but that initial problem solving, that strategic thinking, that's different.
So AI is maybe more like an amplifier for the coder. It makes the coding part faster, maybe.
That's a great way to put it.
But we still need someone setting the direction, deciding what gets amplified.
Yes, the analysis uses that exact idea, an energy amplifier. AI brings the speed, the accuracy, handles the repetition without getting bored or tired.
Right.
But the purpose, the overall structure, the why behind the code, that's still human insight, human intellect.
I like that DJ analogy we talked about before, too.
Yeah.
AI is the massive sound system, maybe.
Yeah.
But the developer is the DJ, choosing the tracks, mixing them, make it all work together.
Exactly. The AI pumps out the code, but the developer curates the experience, decides what fits the bigger picture.
Okay.
And that leads to another really key idea in the analysis. Thinking about code as a language.
Like English or Spanish.
Sort of. And AI, things like GPT or Claude, they're becoming like compilable natural language translators.
Compilable natural language translators.
Wow. What's fascinating is how this shifts the focus. It becomes less about typing syntax and more about our human ability to really understand a problem deeply.
And then articulate it. Explain it well enough for the AI to translate.
Precisely. Your ability to communicate the need becomes paramount.
So it's less about typing speed, more about clarity of thought and communication.
That's a huge shift. The analysis argues, the need for people who just churn out basic code, that might shrink.
Okay.
But the importance of those who can commission coding, who really get the underlying needs, define the project scope clearly, articulate the outcome their value actually goes up.
Commission coding. I like that term. And what about building the context?
Also critical. People who can make sure the code fits into the larger system, solves a real-world problem, integrates smoothly, that becomes even more valuable.
It reminds me of that architect versus bricklayer thing again. Robots might get great at laying bricks, perfectly straight lines, super fast.
Sure.
But you still absolutely need the architect. Someone has to design the whole building.
That's exactly the parallel. So developers are maybe moving away from just being feature implementers.
The bricklayers of code.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Taking instructions, writing those specific lines, and moving towards being problem structure designers.
More like the architect.
Thinking strategically, breaking down the big, complex problems, designing the whole solutions architecture, that's the evolution.
That makes a lot of sense, especially as we see AI tackling more routine stuff already.
Definitely.
The analysis mentioned things like manual HTML, CSS coding, basic CRU APIs.
Right. The create, read, update, delete stuff. standard data operations.
So as AI takes over those tasks, what skills become more valuable? Where should developers focus?
Well, it's interesting to see where the demand and, the value seems to be shifting. As AI handles that lower level repetitive coding,
Yeah.
the stuff needing higher level thinking really comes to the forefront. Think about security design.
Crucial.
Hugely. Making systems robust, secure, or defining how different services in a big application talk to each other, the protocols.
Okay, the communication lines.
Right. Or turning business processes into APIs so different systems can work together. And like we said, designing the whole architecture for large, complex systems.
These are big picture things.
Exactly. They need strategic thinking, deep problem solving, understanding the business and the tech. AI isn't quite there yet.
So maybe fewer roles for just pure coding technicians. People only focused on the basics.
Potentially.
Yeah. But a growing demand for strategists, designers, coordinators. People who get code but operate higher up.
That's the core argument. The analysis even uses a table to kind of map out this value shift.
Okay, yeah, let's look at that table. It breaks down different parts of the job and how AI changes their value.
Right. So first, grammatical coding. Writing the syntactically correct code. Historically, high skill, high cost.
Took years to master.
Yeah. But now, LLMs are getting really good at it. So its direct value is, well, heading towards zero, according to this.
Wow, okay. But then problem definition and design.
That's the flip side. Maybe undervalued in the past sometimes,
Perhaps.
but now becoming absolutely critical. That's where the high salaries are likely to remain or even grow.
Makes sense. If the AI writes the code, figuring out what code to write is key. What about teamwork? Collaboration, coordination.
Yeah, the analysis highlights this too. Maybe seen as a soft skill or selectively important before.
Sometimes.
Now, it's becoming essential. With complex systems, human teams, AI tools all mixed together, you need people who can coordinate all that effectively.
It's glue work, but really important glue.
Very important. And then there's integrating humanities and domain knowledge.
That sounds less techy. How does that fit?
It's about understanding the context. In the past, maybe it gave you a slight edge knowing the industry, the users.
Right.
But the analysis suggests this becomes decisive. Understanding the real world, the specific industry nuances, the human factors, that helps you design much better solutions with AI.
So it's not just tech skills anymore. Broader knowledge matters more.
A lot more. And finally, kind of obviously, AI tool utilization.
Right, that's table stakes now, surely.
Absolutely. Went from non-existent to a basic survival skill. You have to be good at using these tools,
Prompting them, integrating them.
knowing their limits, getting the best out of them. It leads to this idea of human-machine hybridization. The best developers work with the AI.
Okay, so the big picture here isn't developer value disappears. It's more like the kind of value changes. It shifts.
Exactly. It's not a race to zero salary. It's the emergence of a new value hierarchy.
Gotcha.
People who master those higher cognitive skills, problem design, system integration, value judgment, and who can orchestrate AI, they'll be in high demand, high value.
This system orchestrator idea
Yeah.
sounds key. What does that really look like in practice?
Think of someone who sees the whole system end to end.
The big picture.
Right. Understands how all the pieces fit human-written code, AI-generated code, different services,
Yeah.
and they strategically use AI within that system.
So not just coding anymore.
Not just coding individual parts, they're defining the architecture, making sure it all works together, driving towards the actual business goal. They conduct the whole orchestra.
So the focus shifts from just executing lines of code to understanding the real problem, the context, and then guiding the AI, essentially, to generate the right solution.
You nailed it. The developer of the future. Less a coding executor, more a problem context translator.
Taking real-world needs.
And translating them into a structure that humans and AI can work with. Moving from just producing tech to designing for value. Instead of being displaced by machines, they're directing the machines.
Okay, so wrapping this up, the fear, the idea that AI makes developers worthless, it's based on a pretty narrow view, an outdated view.
Very much so. A static view. It misses the evolution.
The reality is AI is pushing developers to evolve, to focus on higher-level strategic skills,
Yes.
which probably means we'll see more differentiation in value, not a total collapse. Some roles change, some new ones emerge.
That's the core argument. The fundamental nature of coding is changing. Those cognitive layers above just writing code, They're becoming way more important.
So value isn't vanishing.
No, it's redistributing,
Yeah.
concentrating on those who have the higher level skills, the deeper understanding, the orchestration ability.
This has been really clarifying. A much more nuanced and, frankly, optimistic take than just the robots are coming for the coding jobs.
Yeah, it really highlights how dynamic the field is and, how important it is for developers to keep learning, keep adapting. It's constant change.
Absolutely.
Right?
And maybe on that note, here's a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Mm-hmm.
Considering this whole evolution, what is the real market value going to be for these hybrid developers? The ones who really blend human insight with AI power effectively.
Good question.
And maybe, how does that traditional full-stack idea change? Could it give way to new roles, like that orchestrator we talked about? Or maybe an AI integrator? Something entirely new?
Definitely things to watch.
Yeah, definitely. Something worth pondering as we all try to figure out this rapidly changing landscape.